revolutionary event. Mr. President, to follow up on that question, a couple of months ago there was this really unique piece of news that at the front lines of the special military operation in Donbass, an American citizen perished who fought on our side, Michael Gloss, who was the son of the deputy head of the CIA. An American already attracts attention, especially from such a family. Were you aware of him prior to when it has become known publicly?
No, I was not aware of it. I found out when there was a draft decree on him acquiring a medal for bravery. And I will be very frank, I was quite surprised. He had complicated parents. His mother is the acting deputy of the investigative branch of the U.S. His father is the retired Navy officer in charge of one of the largest companies supplying Pentagon. So it's not your usual family. I was not aware of any of that. But you see, a colleague was just speaking about her points of view, how she found herself here, and he found himself here for the very same reasons. When he tried to enter the university, his parents were not aware. He came to Turkey, then he came to Moscow. He came to the inscription office and he says that he shares the same values as Russia. Human rights, person's right to his own language, to his own religion. He advocates for human rights. And Russia fights for the very same values. And he's ready and he wants to fight for those values with an arm in his hands. He received special preparation. He wasn't just conscripted in the armed forces, but in the elite branch of armed forces, in the air defense forces. Of course, they're all fighters. He was fighting at the forefront. And he fought courageously. He was heavily wounded. He received a strike wound together with his friend in battle. Another friend pulled them out of a burning vehicle, receiving 25% of burns across his body. He pulled them out, carried them to the woods, and just imagine this young man of 22 years old, bleeding out himself, tried to provide first aid to his friend who was wounded. Unfortunately, Ukrainian UAV noticed them, launched a mine, and both were killed. I believe that these people, they are the core of the MAGA organization who support the current Trump administration because they fight for the same values as himself. They are like that, and he's like that as well. What's that they sing in the anthem? The U.S. is the land of the brave. So he truly proved with his bravery, with his behavior, he laid down his life. And a significant part of U.S. citizens can be proud of him. How this U.S. citizen that we just spoke about, I've handed over this medal to Mr. Witkoff, and when we did that, I've asked to come, and they did come, his brothers in battle, and the head of the Air Defense Forces, as well as the brigade commander, the commander of the group the very same officer who took him out of the burning vehicle and who, just as I've mentioned, were basically wounded. 25% of his skin was burned. And then he recovered and he went back to the battlefield, by the way. So yes, just recently, at the initiative of the Donetsk People's Republic Initiative, one of the schools in Donbass was awarded the name of the American and Russian soldier. That is the school with specialization in English language, and we will do everything so it stays in great condition, as well as other schools in Donbass. We will give all our special attention to it. So that's the kind of person we are talking about. His family and the country who supports his points of view can be proud of him.
Anton Khlopkov.
And overall, I've spoken about people of different nationalities who consider themselves Russian soldiers. Despite being American, he was a Russian soldier.
If I may, let's continue the American topic. You mentioned the attempts to kick Russia out of the global markets, the global system. In recent weeks, we hear all those calls from Washington to China, to India, to other countries, and they're putting pressure on them so that those countries would abandon the idea of purchasing Russian raw materials, energy resources. At the same time, you were saying how important it was to get united and about the experience of interaction between Russia and the US and how we need to restore full-scale relations. Necessity to restore full-scale relations between Russia and the US. And this week, to the surprise of many analysts and observers who daily deal with nuclear energy, there was this stats published according to which Russia is the largest supplier of enriched uranium for the nuclear fuel in the US. Considering the current format and level of bilateral Russia-US political relations, what's your assessment of the prospects of interaction between Russia and the US in this field in terms of supplying enriched uranium and in nuclear energy in general? Thank you.
Yes, I will speak about the possible tariff limitations on the trade of US with our partners, with our trade partners with China, with India and other states. We are aware that they have counselors who, in their administrations, that this is the right economic policy. There are experts in the US as well who question it. We have a lot of people here who question whether this will harbor any beneficial results. What is the root of the problem? And there is a problem. For example, let's imagine there are higher tariffs on the goods from those countries that Russia sells energy carriers to, oil and gas. What will this lead to? For example, Chinese goods will be less present, and then prices will go up on these goods on the US market.
Or these goods will flow via third countries, and once again, prices will go up because of the deficit, and the logistics will cost more. If this happens, if the price is ramped up, the Federal Reserve will have to maintain the interest rates flat or up them to deter the inflation, and this will result in the deceleration of the American economy. It's not about politics, it's like a pure economic reckoning, and many of our economists believe it's going to happen. Same refers to India and goods manufactured there. It's the same as with China. So for the United States, the benefit is not obvious, and for the countries against which the threat was voiced, like for India, if India stops buying our energy, damage will be inflicted upon them, like to $9 to $10 billion if they decline to buy energy from us. If not, high duties will be imposed on them, and once again, damage will be there. Well, the same amount of damage. And why then decline to buy Russian energy to actually sustain political risks? And the Indian people will look at what decisions are made by the political leadership and never accept any humiliation before anyone. And also I know Prime Minister Modi, he will never take any steps of the kind. So economy-wise, there is no point in it. With respect to uranium, well, it is actually kind of type of fuel. This is also type of energy for nuclear power plants. And in this case, a nuclear power plant is no different from those coal firing or furnace oil firing, etc., to generate power. And the United States buys uranium from us. And you've asked, why does it buy uranium from us and bans others to buy our energy? The answer is simple, and it was given back in the times of the Roman Empire. We all know the phrase, quod licet Jovi, non licet bovi. What is allowed to Jupiter is not allowed to Bull. Neither China nor India, even if we recall that in India cow is sacred, they venerate the cow. No one wants to act as a bull. However, in Europe, many of the politicians want to act as a bull or a goat or a ram. Will not point fingers, but this is not about China. It's not the case of India or China or any other major powers or mid-sized nations who respect themselves and will not allow to be humiliated. Well, as regards trading in uranium, this continues, and the United States is the number one, I think, power in terms of nuclear generation. I don't remember the exact number. Probably they have 54 power plants, NPPs. But in the overall energy mix, it accounts for 18.7% only. I mean the nuclear power. We produce and generate less. We have fewer units, but in our energy mix it's also 18.5%, roughly the same proportion. But in the United States they have a well-developed nuclear power sector, and it requires a lot of fuel. We are not number one supplier. You said we're the biggest supplier. No, this is not true. The biggest supplier is an American-European company, I forget its name, supplying 60% of nuclear fuel to the American market. And Russia is number 2, supplying around 25% of uranium. Last year, I cannot recall the exact numbers of supplies, but we earned around 750 or 60 million USD in the first half of this year. We sold uranium worth more than $800 million to the United States. So more than $800 million worth of uranium. And as a result of the year, it's going to be 1.2 billion, more or less. So we can figure how much is going to be next year. Now we have had the backlog of orders to the tune of around 800 million. So the work is ongoing. And, well, they do that because, you know, it's the cost-effective option for them, and they're right in doing so, and we are ready to be a reliable supplier.
I took note that for the next Valdai Discussion Club, we need a session dedicated to livestock, about rams, sheep.
Well, this is a very important matter. Yes, don't hesitate. Don't doubt that. If we step aside from the irony, probably you have caught the irony. But if we speak about the energy trade, the refusal to buy Russian gas in Europe has resulted in the growth of price, and the gas-based fertilizers production has become non-profitable in Europe, and the enterprises closed down, and the price of the fertilizers has gone up, and that impacted the agriculture, and the food prices have gone up also, which reduced the living standards in Europe. This is why people take to the streets.
Mr. Putin, and let's leave alone on the nuclear topic. And over the last week, a lot has been written about the situation in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, that there is a threat of a major failure that would actually damage all the regions nearby. What is going on there?
Well, all the things that have been happening keep happening. The Ukrainian militants try to impact the surroundings of the NPP. Thank goodness they haven't got the nerve to impact the station itself. There were some strikes against the training center. Several days ago, just shortly before Grossi came to visit us, there was an artillery strike impacting the power transmission towers, and now the feed in is provided with the help of generators, and so these transmission lines should be brought in order, should be repaired, and they're within the reach of the Ukrainian artillery. This is the difficulty, and this artillery keeps pounding, and our repair brigades cannot approach this site, and they keep telling everyone that we've been doing that, not them. And Mr. Grossi visited that, and the staff members of IAEA keep silent. They're shy of what has been happening, but they're not blind. They see what has been happening. Do we strike ourselves? This is nonsense. This is a very dangerous game, actually. And on that side, people should be aware that if they keep playing these dangerous games, they still have operating nuclear power plants on their side, and we can reciprocate, respond in kind, let them think it over, Number two, well, around 10,000 people worked at that power plant in the Ukrainian times, because all the social things were on the payroll, on their budget. Now 4.5 thousand people work there full-time, and only 250 came from other regions of Russia. All the rest, the bulk, the vast majority, are the staff members that have been there for quite long. Some of the people, some of the workers left, and no one expelled them, and no one detains those who want to live there and work there. And they have accepted the Russian nationality, as well as our colleague has done. And all that is happening and is witnessed by the observers of the IAEA who are present at the power plant. And this is how things are progressing, are happening there. And we try to, well, by and large, this is under control, and we try to provide for the security of the nuclear power plant and the fuel. But I can only add that the sabotage squads of the Ukrainian army last month and last year repeatedly tried to blow up the power transmission lines near the Kursk and Smolensk nuclear power plants, trying to, well, our professionals restored power supply quickly, but what has been happening now at the Zaporizhzhia power plant is no different from the activities by those terrorist squads. This is very dangerous. Well, they'd better stop that. I hope this message is brought home to those who are in charge. So Grossi knows what has been happening. Yes, he does, and he knows that. Like a UAV drops a shell, or a shell comes. So do we strike ourselves from the Ukrainian territory? This is ridiculous.
Gabor Stirton, over to you.